Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Please have your say. A very, very, very warm welcome to Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. Right, let's go. We're still talking about the Flash movie. That is the upcoming DC movie, the next DC movie. It's a movie that every DC fan, including me, is excited to go and watch and hopefully watch again and again. I have so many thoughts about this movie, and of course, if you want a non-spoiler review, check out my YouTube profile. It's there right in front. You don't have to go anywhere. Just go on my YouTube and the whole review is there. It's a non-spoiler review, so you don't have to worry about that. It's yesterday's DC Universe Daily, of course. But I've got some updated information about the advanced screening fans went to the other day. Number one, it was the same screening they had at CinemaCon. So Andy Muschietti, before the movie started at CinemaCon, was in a pre-recorded video warning all access media at CinemaCon that the movie was not the finished cut. It is not the finished theatrical cut for the Flash movie. And when people went to the advanced screening, they quickly found out that they were seeing the same version as people saw at CinemaCon. Again, the pre-recorded video of Andy Muschietti, the director of the Flash movie, pre-warning people that this is not the finished edition of the Flash movie. Reports I'm hearing are that, in this version, the CGI is still a little bit ropey. They haven't finished it yet, which Andy pre-warned the audience at the advanced screening and at the CinemaCon screening as well. People have not seen the finished cut. But why not? Well, there's lots of reasons for that, because obviously they want to perfect the finished article, because basically the CGI in this film is groundbreaking. It's a lot of technology that hasn't been used before. It's very, very complicated, so they have to perfect it. It will look beautiful, I can assure you, by the time we go to watch it in cinemas. That's number one. In the advanced fan screening, there was no post-credit scenes. But we know the Flash movie, I think at least has one, maybe two post-credit scenes. It will have that. I think there was at least one in the edition at CinemaCon, if I remember rightly, or were we told there was no post-credit scenes? I can't remember. So in the advanced fan screening, there was no post-credit scenes, but there will be. Now, how different will the cinematic theatrical cut of the Flash movie be to the edition at the advanced fan screening and at CinemaCon? Now, basically, most of the movie will remain the same. Like 99.9% will remain the same. Basically, the CGI will look tighter, it will look more stunning, it will look finished. Everything will be finished. In a lot of ways, even though I did see an early test screening, in a way it kind of does spoil it for you, because not everything is finished when you're watching it like that. But it is good to see a test screening, because at least gives you a little idea in what they're kind of planning. But you should never judge a test screening as the finished article. So if you ever get the privilege of going to a test screening, always obey by the rules. That's number one. That's very important to respect them, because it's a privilege. They're like letting you in. They're inviting you. And it's very special because they want your feedback on the movie. But in a way, I'm glad I know I saw the test screening, but I'm glad I didn't see the advanced screening on a CinemaCon version, because that's a movie with music and CGI, but the CGI and the editing isn't exactly complete. So after seeing the test screening, I'd much rather see the finished article at this point. I don't know about you. So what are they going to change then? I think there's a final scene that they haven't revealed from the movie, which they will put at the end. Maybe there will be a bigger reveal. Maybe there'll be a bit more detail of James Gunn's new universe at the ending of the film. I doubt it, but I think there is a big reveal that they're holding back. And as I say, I do believe there's going to be at least 2 post-credit scenes in this movie. What they've got to do with whether they're going to be part of James Gunn's new world or they're going to be like Blue Beetle and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, I don't know. I don't know what they're planning with that. So just so you've got clarification about the advanced screening, it's literally the same version, the unfinished version they saw at CinemaCon, and that's very, very important. Now I have a spoiler alert for you on the Flash movie. I'm going to reveal something about the movie that was revealed in the so-called final trailer. If you don't know about it and you don't want to know about it, you'll have to stop watching the video now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, let's go. So, yeah, Jeremy Irons, Alfred, is in the Flash movie, right? I knew it already, and it's been revealed in the trailer. Now, obviously, there was a pretty good chance of Alfred being in this movie, but he is in the movie, and that is very exciting, and Jeremy Irons is looking very, very good. Now, how can we trust people who have come out of CinemaCon and seen the Flash movie? Can we trust their word on the movie? Very, very positive. We've already had, basically because of CinemaCon screening the Flash movie, we've already had the initial Flash movie reactions. I don't think we're going to get any more. Next will be the embargo, so critics can do their reviews and post the reviews online. We haven't had official reviews. It's very important to understand that the reactions of people coming out of the CinemaCon screening or the advanced screening the other day are not reviews. There's no Rotten Tomatoes scores for the Flash movie. So yes, the reactions have been very, very positive. A lot of Access Media loved this movie, and many, many people, fans who went to the advanced screening, really loved it. There was a couple of people slightly negative after the CinemaCon screening, but mostly people enjoyed it. But reviews, and I'm sure a lot of you understand this after reading many reviews, reviews are very, very different to, initial reactions. I've seen it before. Positive reactions, negative reviews. But I don't know how this movie is going to be reviewed. And even if it is badly reviewed, sometimes badly reviewed movies do really well. AKA Super Mario Brothers that made over $1 billion. It's now the 3rd most successful animated movie of all time. It's a sensational success, and basically it was a badly reviewed movie. And we were all a bit worried about it when it was getting badly reviewed. But at the end of the day, it's an animated movie. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really need critical acclaim. It's nice if your art gets critical acclaim. But at the end of the day, Nintendo is so powerful. Mario is so popular with the fans. The fans held it on their shoulders, and it made a lot of money. And we're going to get this big Nintendo, connected franchise, both in live action, I feel, and animation, which is very, very good news. So I'm not sure what kind of reviews the Flash movie will get from Access Media. I think it will be mainly positive. I think a few people will bring up some points that maybe they didn't like about the movie. But it's all, I always say this, be very careful about initial reactions with sugar junkies coming out the cinema going, whoa man, that was the bestest movie ever. Look, I've seen a lot of reactions from the advanced screening, and I take most of them as nothing. And at the end of the day, my advice is either you're going to see this movie or you're not. You've already made your minds up. So it's very, very important that you make your own minds up. Go and watch the movie, or base your decisions on the trailers and what you're hearing from other people, reviews, reactions. That's up to you. Personally, the best way to form an informed opinion is to be informed by watching the movie. Some of you may not want to go and see the movie. You may not want to support Ezra Miller. You may not want to make the studio money. And that's fine. That's up to you. That's why we live in a democracy, right? That's entirely up to you. But someone who's seen the movie is going to be more informed than you are. But at the end of the day, everyone's entitled to their opinions, informed or not. But, you know, obviously you're not giving an accurate kind of depiction. If you're a content creator and you're slaughtering a piece of art that you haven't seen, first of all, that's wrong because you're misinforming your audience because you don't have prior knowledge to what you're talking about. So I think it's always very important to have that knowledge. But I wouldn't base too much on the fan reactions or the reactions of the CinemaCon screening. And James Gunn's getting himself in a bit of trouble on Twitter again because he's told fans they don't need to have seen any DCEU movies or the Keaton movies to actually be able to enjoy the Flash movie. What's my opinion on that? Well, I think it enhances your enjoyment of the movie if you've seen at least Man of Steel. I don't necessarily think, well, no, actually, because Ben Affleck's in it as well, it would help if you've seen Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, and the Snyder Cut, or even Justice League if you're that desperate. And of course, it would enhance your enjoyment if you know and you love Michael Keaton's Batman. But, you know, James Gunn is the co-CEO of DC Studios. So he's going to want you to go and watch the Flash movie, whether you've seen those movies or not. So he's going to assume you can't be bothered to see the Keaton movies and the DCEU movies that have already been released. So he doesn't want to put you off from going to see it because they need this movie to make a lot of money. He's the co-CEO of DC Studios. It makes sense. He was responding, I think, again to some Snyder fans abusing him for telling people to see the movie whether they've seen the DCEU movies or not because Snyder fans feel insulted by that. I don't think James Gunn was trying to insult anyone. He's just trying to do his job as co-CEO of DC Studios. And that's all he's attempting to do. But let's ask another question. If the Flash movie makes a lot of money, what does this mean for the Flash movie and its future? Nothing. If Blue Beetle is successful, what does it mean for Blue Beetle? Maybe the lead actor gets to be part of James's universe, maybe not. The Flash movie, I think, everything in that is pretty much dead. I don't think it has any future, but we'll wait and see. And Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, there will not be an Aquaman 3 starring Jason Momoa. I can actually exclusively tell you that today, right here and right now. Jason Momoa will be playing Lobo in the new DC universe. You can take that to the bank, but he will no longer be DC's live-action Aquaman after Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Forget about that. If you're holding out hopes for him to continue as Arthur Curry, it's not going to happen. I've even got a pretty good idea on who's going to replace him. And that's going to be a very, very big day over on social media when that gets announced. But yeah, I don't see Jason Momoa making an Aquaman 3 or playing Arthur Curry after Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And I think it's pretty obvious he is playing Lobo. Now, quite a few months ago, he said he could play Aquaman and another character or other characters in the DC Extended Universe. I don't foresee that being the case. He's going to be Lobo, and that's it. I want to talk about specifics now, and James Gunn's specific plans. And the man knows what he wants. This is what he knows. He knows that the MCU dropped the ball with Phase 4. He knows that. He's inadvertently spoken about lack of quality in comic book movies recently. He knows the DC Extended Universe is a clusterfuck, yeah? A lot of us love a lot of movies in the DC Extended Universe. It doesn't mean it isn't a clusterfuck. The DCEU was a clusterfuck, from day one. It doesn't matter what I think about the movies, what I think about Snyder and the other directors. I love a lot of movies in the DC Extended Universe. Some of them may even be some of the best CBMs ever made. That doesn't change the fact, as a franchise, It's a clusterfuck. It's as simple as that. James Gunn knows this. What is James Gunn's job? Basically, his job is to take this existing franchise, put it on a new earth, in a new timeline, keep what he feels works, which is exactly what he said, and dump things that he doesn't think are going to work. On Superman, it's time to stop trying to reinvent the fucking wheel. Stop trying to reinvent Superman. And as I said, keep it to the basics. Make Superman what he's always been. James Gunn is going to have a specific plan on what he thinks a Superman movie should be. But not just any old Superman movie, a Superman movie that world builds, that introduces his new DC universe that we've also discussed many times before. It's not going to be Superman the movie, it's not going to be Man of Steel, it's not going to be Superman Returns, it's going to be James's own vision. Gunn has specific ideas, as I say, in what he's going to do. He's going to already know what kind of universe he's going to want, right? He knows mostly what he's going to do. So I don't think how much the Flash movie makes a bit of difference to James Gunn. Now, he said he loves the Flash movie. I believe him. I believe him. You know, obviously he's co-CEO of DC Studios. He wants you to go and see the movie. There's no point pretending that, but basically he knows that Shazam! Fury of the Gods was a terrible fucking movie. I think Zaslav has been very, very clever in the marketing and the marketing decisions for the Flash movie. He did try and save Black Adam by bringing Cavill back. It simply didn't work. Why didn't he try and save Shazam! Fury of the Gods? It's simple. There's an old saying in business, don't throw good money after bad. Marketing, giving a huge marketing budget to Shazam! Fury of the Gods was throwing good money after bad. So they just let that movie die. That movie didn't die because of the marketing drive or the poor or the lack of marketing for the movie. It died because the movie was a betrayal in what David F. Sandberg did in the first movie. In the first movie, this industry was still trying to make great movies, and now it's current day, and we saw what they did with the movie. It was shit. Oh, we had two gal boss villains. It was terrible. It was embarrassing. And the villains we all wanted, which was, what's his name? Mr. Mind. I nearly called him Mindless Worm because he kind of looks like a worm, right? Mr. Mind and Savannah would have been the great villains for the sequel. Great double act, which would have been kind of the first kind of comedic criminal partnership since Otis and Lex Luthor from the early Christopher Reeve Superman movies. It would have been great, and it fits the tone. I'd rather the villains be a little bit bumbling than the heroes. I'd prefer less comedy from the heroes, I think. But they missed the trick. They ruined the sequel in so many elements. The first movie was emotional. It was relevant. It was beautiful. The messaging was great. This second movie, I don't know what the idea was, but they fucked up. And that's why Zaslav didn't attempt to save it. But from day one, Zaslav came in and he knew he wanted to save the Flash movie. Look at the condition of that movie when Zaslav came in. We were discussing it here on my channel, and many channels were discussing it. What's going to happen to the Flash? Is it going to get canned? Are they going to recast and start again? Obviously, they were never going to do that. They're having to invest even more money. But my argument was at the time, if the current movie is going to lose so much money because of the lead actor, maybe investing more money to redo the movie isn't a bad thing. But my ultimate opinion on the matter was to shelve every DCEU movie upcoming, starting from Black Adam. That was my plan, just to bin it and not do a soft reboot for the DC universe, but actually do a full reboot. And I was a little bit disappointed when I heard James was only doing a soft reboot, because I would have started again. Because that's another thing. This Flash movie really, in a way, doesn't matter in terms of the future. Yes, it does open up a new timeline. That's really why the movie was made in the first place, because that's the plan Walter Hamada had in the first place, but the way he was going to open the new timeline was very, very different. This movie has made a lot of changes since James Gunn has come in, mainly to the ending, cutting out Sasha Calle, cutting out Michael Keaton of the ending, because he wants to go a different direction. But don't take anything as read with the ending of this movie, because we really don't know yet what the ending of the Flash movie is going to be. They could change the ending again, and as I say, I do foresee a couple of brand new post-credit scenes. What they do with that is very, very interesting. Then you've got Blue Beetle afterwards, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom as well. So, as I say, James Gunn has got specific plans on what he's going to do, and I don't think box office for this year's movies are going to change anything. I mean, it's interesting. David Zaslav has even said he's surprised Disney didn't put James Gunn in charge of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's insane. I mean, considering how successful Feige was prior to Phase 4, but maybe Zaslav's talking about the disaster that Phase 4 was, and maybe he feels that James Gunn should have been given a job after the disaster of Phase 4. Look, I don't know how good James Gunn is at running, something as huge as DC Universe, because he's going to be the lead creative. It's a very different responsibility than he's ever had before. This is huge. This is massive. Every movie, every TV show has to have the great reviews, needs positive reactions. They all need to make money. They all need, views on streaming. And the box office has to be huge for every movie in the DC Universe, or these people are going to eat him alive in the press and certain fans who have been after him since day one. So James Gunn is under a lot of pressure. He doesn't seem to be feeling the pressure yet, but this is a very, very big position he's put himself in, and there's no ducking, there's no spinning, out of that. This is huge. This is DC. He's the co-CEO of DC Studios. This is massive. But a win for the Flash movie isn't a win for James Gunn, because it isn't his movie, as he's admitted himself. The other day, he was complimenting the writer of the Flash movie, someone who I was complimenting yesterday in my review of the Flash movie, Christina Hodson, who has done a very solid job. I must admit, when I heard she was writing the movie, I was very, very concerned, considering her prior attempts at writing screenplays. But to be fair to her, I've always felt her screenplays were solid, but they always kind of lacked something for me. And even though I have issues with Birds of Prey, as I said yesterday, I don't think the screenplay, the script for Birds of Prey is the problem. It's necessarily the direction, the feminist angle. I think that's the problem with the movie. But she did a really, really good job with this movie. There's no question about that, because there are funny gags. There are some brilliant, relatable, emotional moments in this film. Whether you have liked Christina's previous work, she did do a really, really good job. She's a very enthusiastic woman as well. And she does love nerd shit, which is one of the reasons I really like her. And he complimented James Gunn. He finally complimented Andy Muschietti. I've never heard him, speak Andy's name before. So this was on Twitter yesterday. And I was shocked that he actually mentioned Andy's name. As I mentioned, Andy's the kind of director who doesn't mind being directed, because that was the situation with the Flash movie. He was being directed by Walter Hamada. So I think James Gunn can use Andy Muschietti in future DC Universe projects. I certainly would, because he's a really, really good director. He's a very talented director. He hasn't caused any problems. In fact, with the problems that they've had with the Flash movie, I don't think they could have steered the good ship Flash movie home without Andy Muschietti's, patience. Because that's been the thing with Andy. He's been very, very patient. And we all know who with and different situations. He's been very, very professional, and I really do respect in horrible circumstances when people can hold their words, bite their tongues, hold their tempers, because if he did come out and start, going off on one about certain people, you wouldn't blame Andy. I mean, there's been times where his movie wasn't going to see the light of day, and when the stuff with Ezra Miller was coming out, that's the person that I had empathy with, not just Andy, but his sister, who's his business partner and producer, Barbara Machete, as well. They were telling us like 6 months ago we were getting a trailer soon. We didn't get a trailer for ages. Because they were just getting stuff from the studio. The studio didn't know whether to turn left or right with the conduct of Ezra Miller. It was in the end, Adby and DeLuca who calmed shit down. I've mentioned this before in previous videos. They got Ezra in and they said to them, listen, if you don't sort this shit out, we're going to shelve the movie. And that actually happened. And that was factual. From that moment on, Ezra Miller pulled his head in. So that is the movie. The movie is happening, but what relevance this movie has to the future, I don't know. That's the thing that I'm kind of thinking about. Now, I don't think that James Gunn is one of these people who goes, it made oh my God, it made 5 million today. Oh, I better write this. Or I think James Gunn has a specific plan for his DC universe, and I don't think anything is going to change his mind. Christina Hodgson will be part of his team, his writing team. Tom King, the comic book icon and legend, will be part of his team. He's decided who's going to be working with him and for him. He knows what direction he's going, and I don't think it really matters to him what these movies do. But as a studio, they desperately need. I mean, really, they needed Black Adam and Fury of the Gods to do really well, but you can't force people to watch your shit. So they're hoping beyond hope now that, people come in, support the Flash movie, love it. My kind of updated predictions on the box office are this. I'm assuming it's going to have at least a solid to strong opening. But I have mentioned this before, it's the repeat business that's the key. It'll be interesting if this thing has rewatchability. Oh, is that what you're asking me? I know what you're asking me, even though I can't hear you. Mick, would you give it repeat business? Yes. Yes. Even if I only wanted to repeat watch one thing, I'd go back and watch it. There's a brilliant cameo in this movie. All right, I'm gonna. Before we go, we've got about 2.5 minutes to go to the end of today's DC Universe Daily. We'll discuss this. We've discussed it before. So, spoiler alert: if you don't want to know what happens in one of the cameos, please go away now. Most of you know this, but I'm going to reiterate this. Nicolas Cage plays Superman in the Flash movie, and he fights the iconic Spider in this movie, right? That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to give you details about the scene, but that's what happens, because that's what was going to happen in Tim Burton's Superman Lives, and it's fucking awesome. They haven't tidied that sequence up yet in terms of VFX and CGI, but it's going to look fucking stunning. I can assure you of that. And get in the comments, let me know, what do you think? Would you like to see that movie, that Nicolas Cage movie? I mean, he's probably in his 60s now, but I don't give a shit. If we can have an 80-year-old Michael Keaton Batman, pretty much front and center in most of the movie, why can't we have a Nicolas Cage Superman in DC Elseworlds? So that is actually my standout moment of the movie. I'm a big Flash fan. I think the two Barrys and all of that are fucking awesome, and you're going to love all that stuff and the twist with the villain. But that is epic. That's an epic moment. Nicolas Cage back as Superman fighting the Spider as he was going to do in Tim Burton's Superman Lives movie, and it is an epic moment. Just imagine when they clean up the VFX and CGI for it. And I'm very excited for all of us to discuss that when you guys and girls get to see the movie. But that is absolutely my favourite part of the movie. This is what this movie is. It is a Flash movie. It does focus on the Flash, no matter what haters say to you. But let's get this clear. I said something yesterday and someone came in and, kind of misconstrued what I said. This is a celebration of the DCEU, and stuff outside of the DCEU at the same time. It doesn't mean every single thing that's ever been in DC gets celebrated, but the best stuff, the great stuff, the most popular stuff is. Basically, this is a celebration of DC in general, the comics, the live action. That doesn't mean they can celebrate everything and show you cameos of every single thing that's ever been, but that's what this movie was supposed to do. In terms of, I've spoken about Zack Snyder a lot, and I've said, you know, poor Zack, he was treated this way, that way, which is true. But if you're coming at this thing from Warner Brothers, whatever leadership it's been, the past or this one, imagine, right? You've got a universe that is divisive and controversial. Whether you love the Snyderverse or not, as I do, that it's a bit of a mess for you as a business. You're not making your $2 billion on the Man of Steel movie or your $2 billion on BVS like you expected and projected, right? Half the audience fucking hate what you're giving them, right? And you need a franchise that makes top dollar that people love. That's the business you're in. That's why you're funding and investing in these IPs. It's not like you're making that, like that recent Joaquin Phoenix movie that's very, very, oh my God, that was just such a strange movie kind of thing. And who cares if it doesn't make any money, right? Because it was cheap to make and we made it for the art. The reason they allow these IPs to be made is for the wonga and the money. And Snyder's movies weren't making the maximum projections and they were pissing people off. So when you're coming out of Warner Brothers' point of view, you're trying to stop these waves coming at you. The water's flying at you. What you do? They didn't know what to do next. But bringing in James Gunn, I think, should stem the tide. It should do the trick. This has been Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most to your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. Smash the like button if you love me. I know you do and I love you too. Mwah. Subscribe if you're new and I will see you on Thursday's DC Universe Daily. Until I see you then, parting is sweet sorrow. Until I see you again, goodbye. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. See you later.